Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Daniel, and today I will be talking about my experiences and giving out my recommendations for the Croatian coastline. Croatia is one of the most popular tourist summer destinations in the world. I went there during the winter time. I was there for about 3 months during COVID also, so hardly anybody was around. It was really nice, and things were a lot cheaper than they are now. That was several years ago, and during the summer, everything gets way more expensive. I'm talking over $100 per night for most places. During the winter time, though, you can find a place probably as low as $20, but $25 to $35. You'll probably have no problem finding a place along the coastline. So when I went there, I left Zagreb and I went to Pula, which is located on the northwestern part of Croatia on the southern tip of the Istrian Peninsula. So Croatia was once under the rule of the Roman Empire, and artifacts can be seen all around the city, mostly in the city center. The most impressive one to me is the imposing Colosseum that's overlooking the Adriatic Sea. There are only 6 of them left, and this one is one of the most well preserved of all of them. It's around 2,000 years old. And because I was there during COVID, I was fortunate enough to be able to stand in the middle and get a 360-degree view of a completely empty Colosseum. So if time is not a factor in your trip, then I recommend taking an extra day to explore around Pula. There are several forts around there. Most of them date back to the early to mid 19th century. So there's one out there called Fort Punta Cana, and I had a taxi driver take me out there. They were doing construction, and he talked to the people and they let me inside to explore around. And it turns out that that place is every year, once a year, people get together for an EDM festival, and it's normally closed to the public. And there just happened to be 2 local journalists there who were comparing when there were additions onto the fortifications, and they had they had copies of the original blueprints. So they asked me if I wanted to explore with them, and of course I said yes. So they showed me around, and I gained access to a lot of rooms that even the tourists aren't allowed to access. And then they took me out to a couple more forts that have been abandoned, but you can still find on Google Maps. And I got to see some of the damage done from World War II, and there are markings on all of these forts uh, from soldiers during the war. As you can see here, I got to explore some pretty creepy pitch black tunnels. And one of the most mysterious places that I found was this huge, I don't know if you call it a basement, it was underground, but there's this platform that just leads to this big room, and there's no way to get out. And it's like 15 feet down. So that was pretty crazy. All right, so my next stop was the old port city of Rijeka. If you are on a time crunch, you can skip this city. There are a few things to do, but it's not the most exciting city. There is some pretty cool architecture close to the sea by the bus station. There's a maritime museum with a lot of pretty cool artifacts on display inside, outside. It's a pretty big place. You can spend a couple of hours there. And there's also a small castle that overlooks the city, overlooks the sea. It provides a really pretty view of everything. And there's also a pretty nice park where you can spend a couple of hours walking around. It's really quiet over there. Overall, you can spend about 1 day in Rijeka and see everything. There's also a computer museum, like an old gaming museum. It's called Peek and Poke. It was closed when I was there. So if anybody's been, let me know in the comments because it looked like a pretty cool place. Okay, my third city was Zadar. This is a pretty cool city. I stayed inside the city walls. It's a fortified city center from the Roman days, and it was just fun to walk around the narrow streets and explore. And what's cool about this place is they have these solar panels outside called sun salutations, and they charge up during the day, and they light up during the day, but they look much better at night here, as you can see. And then also around the same area, there's what's called a sea organ, and it looks like stairs just going down into the Adriatic Sea. But what it really does is play music. The waves splash inside there and musical notes come out. And there's also a lot of ancient artifacts, ancient churches. So you could easily spend a couple of days here. Here you can see a pretty cool entrance to get inside the city center. And there's really not much more to that city, but I just enjoyed it, and I thought those things were pretty cool. It's pretty relaxed. You can go fishing off the pier and everything. So yeah, it's a pretty cool place. And that's about it for Zadar. There's not much else to see besides these things, but they are pretty cool. So it is worth spending 1 night or 2 nights there. So there was once a Roman emperor named Diocletian, and before he retired, he had a palace built in Split, which is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it dates back as early as the 4th century. So this place was actually pretty big and a lot of fun to explore. And in one section here, you'll see a black granite sphinx that was gifted to Diocletian by Egypt. It was actually one of 12, and the other 11 were destroyed by invading Christians after Diocletian died. Diocletian persecuted a lot of Christians, so they didn't really hold him in high regard. And there's also the Cathedral of St. Dominus, which is said to be the oldest Catholic cathedral in the world. And there's also a really cool park with a giant hill in the middle that provides people with a great view of the city and the sea. So if you go to Croatia, put Split on your list and expect to spend 2 or 3 days there. It's a really cool city. You'll enjoy it. And last but certainly not least on this list is the old city of Dubrovnik. This is an incredible place. I loved it here. So I stayed at this Airbnb on top of this really steep hill, but I got to see a great view, absolutely stunning view of the city and the sea, especially at sunset. So the old city is also surrounded by a giant wall, and it is it's another UNESCO heritage site. And when you look at a map, you will see that Bosnia actually splits Croatia, and that southern strip was once called the Republic of Ragusa, with Dubrovnik as its capital. And I was told by some of the locals, and I've read into this a little bit as well, that it was the first country to officially recognize the United States of America, even before the Kingdom of Morocco and France. So you can find a little bit about it online. I just thought that was an interesting piece of forgotten history that deserves to be mentioned. And so, like I mentioned, the city is fortified with a gigantic wall. But one of the cool things about Dubrovnik is that you can actually walk around the perimeter of the wall. And there's a pretty amazing fortress next to it. It's built right into the rocks, which also deserves a tour. And inside the city center, you will find plenty of places to eat, several museums, mostly having to do with the war, with the Yugoslav wars from 30 years ago. And there's just so much culture. It's a really fun place. So you could easily spend 2, 3, 4 days here. And that is it for this video. I know there are probably lots of things that I missed. I know there are some islands you can check out, but I just didn't have the time or the budget to do any of those things. So if you've been to Croatia and you've been along the coast and I missed some of these things, then let me know in the comments, and maybe one day I'll be able to visit them as well. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check out my Instagram at DanielM549, and also check out my website at www.wherethewindgoes.com. And my next video will be over the other destinations in Croatia that are not along the coastline. So be sure and check that out, and I'll see you next time. Bye.